Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning it's my privilege to review a book called Brexit Time. This has come to us from Cambridge University Press, and I've done a review for the local Cambridge Law Society journal, the light blue. The title we've got for, the subtitle for this book is Leaving the EU, Why, How and When. It's been written by Professor Kenneth A. Armstrong from Sydney, Sussex. And other institutions. Now, I've given the title of our book review Brexit, Sick of It or Can't Get Enough of It, because actually this is a book which I think is very, very useful, certainly for lawyers, for student lawyers, for people thinking about the legal profession as a possible career, and a much wider public thinking about this decision that has been made. I'm personally not happy about leaving the EU at all. But this book, I think, does set out some of the major matters that have to happen in the timeline, if you like, that we've now got spread before us. Now, Elizabeth and I talked about the book in some detail. Let's just have a look at it first of all. It's a paperback, it's only a small book. There's the front, there's the spine, then there's the back. I'm sure you will be seeing this book in lots and lots of bookshops. It's a very important book, I think. It doesn't run to many pages, 300 pages, index at the back with page numbering. The front of the book, there's a little bit of blurb, which is again repeated on the back of the book. There's the front page there. Then there's a little bit of information about Cambridge University Press, and then there's a dedication, which I always like to show. Then after that, we have some basic information about the book, the contents of the book, split into various parts. Part 1, time before Brexit. Part 2, time of Brexit. Part 3, time for Brexit. And Part 4, time to Brexit. Okay, and there are a total of 19 chapters and effectively a postscript for Time for the Future, postscript at the end with an epilogue which I'll comment on, and then an index. You've got some acknowledgements. It's a profound work. It's obviously written in a very substantially uniformist way, if I can put it, for a Cambridge Don. If you know what I mean by that, if you've been to Oxford or Cambridge, you will probably know the gloss that they have when it comes to presentation communication is all their own, and this is really a standard, excellent work. You can see there are footnotes as we go through the book. It's easy to read. One of the nicest things is that it's rather like probably attending an extended lecture of his, in the sense that it isn't difficult to understand at all, and he explains himself very simply. There we go, because this is not a simple subject. Just bearing in mind that every time Bill Cash gets up in the House of Commons, everyone leaves, so you can have a fairly good understanding even now that it's a boring subject for many people. There's the index. And just before that, I just want to show you the epilogue. The epilogue is worth reading because this book is published in the summer of 2017. I'm reviewing this after the general election and a hung parliament. We've started the Brexit talks to leave, and I don't know where we're going to be going. We are beginning to see, even as I speak, some of the things that we were talking about during the general election actually now being discussed, the rights of EU nationals here in the UK to stay and so forth. These are issues that in my view should have been dealt with a long time ago but haven't. This book is, I think, a very important book because what he's doing, what Armstrong is doing here, is he is explaining the mechanics now of what's going to happen. And I think that any political scientist, anybody involved who's interested, this is a very important read. And as I said before, and I'll repeat it, it's easy to read too, which frankly is good because there are so many boring books on Brexit. This one isn't one of them. It's excellent. Now, let me say a little bit about the book. Professor Kenneth A. Armstrong, we say, is a brave man to write this short, succinct and subtle statement on Brexit time, leaving the EU, why, how and when, at this particular time, the summer of 2017. We've now entered the complexities of minority government after the general election in June 2017, and a further indication of mass confusion over the EU continues as far as the electorate are concerned. Otherwise, we would have had a very clear indication of where we're going. But it's showing a real upset, and that is not going to go away. We suppose Brexit time is better than Brexit Space, as though we're all travelling to some sort of distant sun, even though to many of us it seems such a journey, possibly taking even longer as the leaders continue to argue on the quarterdeck with no one in real control. Now, we are getting some control back. The control which Prime Minister Theresa May was looking for in terms of a clear mandate has not happened, but she will go ahead. And as I've indicated to many people with reviews in the past, at the moment, we could wake up tomorrow morning and find there's another general election. So we just don't know where we're going. In the meantime, Brexit time is rapidly, the clock is ticking and it is going, the timeline is progressing. Some of us had thought, hopefully, that we might be hearing a bit less of Brexit by now with a thumping Tory Liberal Labour majority in your dreams. But no, this beauty is staunchly with us for the duration. And Brexit time fits in well with all the Sage publications we are building up on this momentous event in what is now minority government space. And I give you that illusion because that's where we are, and it's just going to make lives a lot more difficult. However, the end product is what the Brexiteers wanted, and that is we're leaving and we've got to get the best terms possible. We've also got to make sure with the Great Repeal Bill, or whatever it calls itself eventually, that when we repeal the European Communities Act 1972, we keep as much of the good laws that we've got as we can. And that's where lawyers come in, because we should be identifying what they are. So what is this book about, and when, how and why is it helpful? It's described as offering an indispensable guide to the key issues, contextualising each stage of our exit and what is going to happen afterwards. Very helpful indeed. The author has an impeccable pedigree, of course, from the Centre for European Legal Studies at Cambridge, and as a Fellow of Sydney Sussex and Queen Mary London. And he expresses himself brilliantly, and I expect nothing less, of course, from Cambridge. Brexit Time is a delight to read at a time of huge uncertainty and a stalemate in British politics. And Armstrong introduces his book saying that the argument advanced is that Brexit was not the UK's manifest destiny. He writes in the introduction that it was a choice, and like all choices, it was a product of a variety of forces and the structures that mediate those forces, with one of those structures being time itself. Because, as I said, the clock is ticking. The saddest thing about the book, apart from the fact that it had to be written at all, is that no politicians will read it or take any notice of it, mainly because they think they have the answers, which of course they don't. Now, Professor Armstrong does have some answers and some humility. He says of Brexit that any analysis is extremely exposing of the gaps in our knowledge, and he's absolutely right about that. He then compounds the fracture by fairly admitting, as we should all do, that the period since the referendum has been humbling, and that he is all too happy to acknowledge that in the process of writing the book that he's learnt a great deal. And we can gratefully say that Armstrong is one of the experts who thought he knew a reasonable amount about the EU, but it just goes to show how little we know. But this book does help our knowledge. The fact is that we think we know a reasonable amount, but we don't, because this is, apart from being new territory, it's very confusing. It's also very detailed. So we want to separate everything out and find the real issues, and we haven't got much Brexit time in which to do it. The book is an objective and clear statement of where we are in the middle of 2017, I think, where party politics can change matters and outlooks very, very quickly. Armstrong's final words, I think, are worth consideration when he says in different times and in different locations, choices are made that shape Brexit. And frankly, we don't know. I wish we had more certainty, but we don't. And it should be, I think, compulsory reading for all parliamentarians, civil servants, and that special advisor army of political foot soldiers as we enter the next phase of the Euro exit. If they can be bothered to read it, that is, with the rest of us. Because at the moment, I think there's an awful lot of confusion, and I believe this sets the record straight. Let me conclude by saying we've just had another dent in the timeline with a minority government being created here in the UK. So Armstrong's conclusion is prescient when he says this: these choices have causes and they have consequences. They certainly do. He finishes with these choices, these words: these are choices in time and of time. And that, of course, is the problem and the conundrum which we face as the author tracks in about 300 pages, with good footnotes, where we must go in this modified timeline, as it is surely going to be modified further. Well, thank you very much to Professor Armstrong. Here's the book again, a first-class book. Thank you to Cambridge University Press very much for producing it. There's the blurb on the back and the information about the professor. Just opening it in the middle, Defining Brexit, Redefining Britain. That, just opening it in the middle, probably just about clarifies the position we're in. We've got to define what we're doing by leaving, and then we're going to have to redefine what our role is, with all these wonderful markets for trade that are going to open up throughout the whole world, all the other things that are going to happen. Well, it's an adventure, and I'm getting a bit old for adventures myself, but I wish you all the best of success. Do read the book, though, because he sets it in a really great context. So thank you very much to Kenneth and everybody involved at Cambridge University Press. Bye-bye.